Hello, everyone. So, welcome to our online panel discussion. My name is Anahita Modiri Asari, and I am a member of Women of MENA in Technology, New York City chapter. I have got my PhD in civil geotechnical engineering, and it's almost 2 years that I have moved to New York and work in a civil consulting company. It's almost a year that I have joined Women of MENA in Technology. We are very excited today about our event. We are gonna have like amazing panelists and moderator. Before I want my teammates to introduce themselves, I would like to briefly talk about who we are. So as a Women of MENA in Technology, which is previously known as Persian Women in Tech. This is like a 6-year nonprofit organization established in Silicon Valley in 2015. The founder and CEO of this organization is Sepideh Nasiri. We are in more than 17 cities around the world and have over 35,000 community members, 90% of whom are technical. And our mission is to close the diversity and gender gap in STEM by connecting mentoring and educating Middle Eastern and North African women in tech and STEM globally. I would like to also have a few announcements. So first of all, we will have our career fair on August 13. So last year we had like over 300 attendees and 15 sponsors and also virtual booth tables. So if you would like to attend and also be a sponsor and get involved, please feel free to email us at nyc@womenofmena'intechnology.com, and I will ask one of my teammates to just type this email address in the chat box. Also, we will have a global conference, which is going to be our 4th annual conference on November 4th and 5th. So I would like to ask one of my teammates to also share the registration and the conference link with you in the chat box. So please feel free to register. We will have amazing speakers, panelists, and also career booth and expo booth. So if you would like to be a sponsor and promote your company and also your product and services, please email conference@womenofmena'intechnology.com. Again, last year we had over like 11,000 attendees and speakers, and we would like to double this number. Please also follow us on our social media pages like on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so you can get more information as we get closer to these dates. My last announcement is gonna be that we are looking for a 4th member for our NYC team. So if you are interested, based in New York and have a broad network, please email your LinkedIn profile and CV to nyc@womenofmena'intechnology.com. And with that, I would like to ask my teammates to introduce themselves. Leila?
Hi, everyone. My name is Leila Novini. I'm another NYC team member of Women of MENA in Technology. I have a master's from Parsons School of Design in Design and Technology. I am a user experience designer by trade. I've 10 to 15 years of experience in the retail and fintech industries.
Thank you, Shabnam.
I had like a background that I had to mute myself. Hi everyone, my name is Shabnam Habibzadeh. My background is in IT. I have like some experience, back in Iran in telecom companies, and I moved here. I switched my career, to tweak, my career I started as an IT auditor, and it's been a year I'm working as a data analyst. It's been a year that I'm volunteer at Women of MENA in Technology, and happy that we are your hosts today. Hope you enjoy the panel.
Thank you. Yeah, we are very excited. So let's get started with our panel discussion. like I said, we have amazing panelists and moderator, and they have like interesting journey to share with us. So I would like to hand it over to our great moderator. Our moderator is Sepideh Nasiri, the CEO and founder of Women of MENA in Technology.
All right, thanks team. Really appreciate this introduction. I'm so excited to be here. Hi everyone, welcome to Women of MENA in Technology New York's virtual event for May. As introduce themselves, we're so excited to be here and supporting our community, not just in New York. Since we are virtual, it's a global community. I consider it a borderless community. And here at Women of MENA in Technology, we are focused on expanding and growing this community's visibility, the lack of visibility that exists, and providing resources, education, and knowledge. And we can't do that without our community, without our stakeholders that are within each city. These are our partners, whether it's companies, whether it's organizations. I truly believe that only through collaboration, we can achieve our goals. Today, it's a really important topic to talk about. It is how you can transition your career into tech. As you might know and heard here, we started into a pandemic that has had drastic impact on careers, on jobs, workforce, and companies around the world. That also means there is a lot more effects for underrepresented communities and women particularly. Around 2.3 million women left the workforce last year. Let that sink in, 2.3 million. That means either they left because they were laid off due to the fact that the pandemic had some impact on the companies where they worked in, or they had to leave the workforce due to the environment and challenges they had at home, since everyone is working from home. We're here to provide you insight today through our esteemed speakers, how you can transition if you're not in tech yet, into the tech ecosystem. Technology is enabling us to have better work options. Now, if you are a woman, with children, and you have to now decide whether to work or stay at home, technology enables you, and a lot of companies are providing that flexibility. It has a better pay most of the time. So technology has so much innovation, and it is a desirable arena, and women should be part of that. Get paid, ladies. So with that said, I would like to invite our speakers on to our stage to have a discussion around how you can transition your career into technology. What are the challenges? What you should work towards too, because it's not just that you want to get into this field, but also how to get into this field. What are the best routes? What are the career paths? All of that, and the wealth of information and insight our speakers have had, since they've had so much experience in this tech ecosystem and working in the tech ecosystem. So I'm so excited. I'm going to welcome Sylvia, Sheila, and Danielle onto the stage. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah. We just lost Daniel. Oh, there he is. Well, thank you so much for joining us from your beautiful homes. I see so many different backgrounds. This is great. What I would love to do before we dive into all the different questions that we are all excited to hear about is a little bit of introduction. I'll go from top down. Sylvia, would you like to introduce yourself, a little bit about your background and where you are today, and maybe a little bit about your experience as well? Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time today.
Thank you for inviting us. Really happy to share whatever knowledge we've gained over the years with other women. Truly believe in the community of women can help each other and lift each other. So with that, let me introduce myself. My name is Sylvia Ahmed. I'm VP of Engineering at Veritas. And I actually have been in this industry from the beginning of my career to now, which spans over 35 years. I actually have a degree in psychology and minor in cybernetic systems. And I'm mentioning that not because it actually has defined my career, but rather because of the topic we're dealing with today. I actually went back to school, didn't get a BS degree, but I did all of the coursework needed in order to get myself a very strong foundation to build on. I actually started off as a tech support engineer in a very small startup company. At the time, I didn't know what a startup was. I just knew I had a job. And I was very fortunate that the main architect and founder of the company invested in me and got me very excited about this field. And that's how my journey started. Since then, I've had the opportunity to actually work myself into the product engineering organization and have actually managed and led teams in every function. And I'll talk a little bit about that during our panel discussions, all of the different opportunities. I've also had very fortunate and grateful that I was in Silicon Valley where all the companies were coming up, and I've had the opportunity to work on some product companies that have delivered hardware as well as products in every layer of the software stack. Like I mentioned, long career here. I've had the opportunity to also work on very innovative products, like the very first handheld device that has gone out to the market, storage, security, you name it. And I've worked at companies like VMware, NetApp, Tandem, for those who are old enough to remember Tandem. So very, very fortunate to be in this field. I really do encourage other women to not be afraid about joining like the high-tech company, because there's a lot of different roles and you just need to know what value you bring to them. So with that, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Sheila, would you like to go next?
Great. Thank you, Sepideh. Can you hear me clearly?
We can.
Great. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak today and to be part of this panel. I'm actually really thrilled to be part of the conversation and to share my journey. I call it, rocket scientist to STEM evangelist. It's kind of how I see myself, because it is truly my purpose and my passion to close that gender gap for women. So quick moment on my background. So in the dim and distant past, I got a degree in mechanical engineering in the UK. And I graduated in a class of 40 boys and 3 girls. So that's where I started. And I started my career. I wanted to be in aerospace. I went to work in the military aircraft engine business. And I was, at the time, I didn't realize it, I was one of the few women of color. In fact, probably, I was just actually thinking, did I know anybody who was not white in those days who was an engineer? No, I knew a couple of women, but being a woman of color in that field was certainly a big change for people to see. And I worked at both Rolls-Royce in the UK and for General Electric in the US. And eventually moved from that industry to what was at that time an up and coming industry, which was monetizing data analytics, all of that. In fact, we were doing big data and digital transformation before those words existed. So I led product development for MasterCard in monetizing their transaction data. And in fact, our team launched MasterCard's very first iPhone app, which was an ATM locator. So, and had a long career there, leading Silicon Valley acquisition, et cetera. And around that time, I have a daughter who at the time was about 12 years old, and, nerdy science kid. And I said, why haven't you taken a coding class? And she kind of hung her head and said, I think I'm too old. It's passed me by. And after, of course, I picked my jaw up off the floor, I put her into a coding class very quickly. But it was also my personal call to action, And that's when I switched my career to address this issue of underrepresentation in tech and engineering, and moved to transform the Girl Scout experience through digital at the Girl Scouts of the USA, and I've worked at Cognizant, helping underrepresented groups get into technology through supporting them through foundations and grants and a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm happy to share more detail. And especially, as Sylvia said, I think women often feel like they're the only ones who feel like they are experiencing an issue. And I want to assure you, and today we'll discuss some of that, as to you're not the only ones. So that was probably a little long-winded, but over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Sheila, for being here. Really appreciate it. And, it's always important to realize everybody's background, how their journey got them to where they are and why they're so passionate about their work and what they're doing. So really appreciate you sharing that with us. Daniel, everybody will say, why is there a man on the panel? I believe that everyone has to be part of the conversation. We are not going to find solution if we are just huddling around ourselves who have the challenges, have the problem. We need to have everyone part of the solution here. So thank you so much for joining us, giving us your time and your invaluable insight. So would you like to introduce yourself so everyone gets to know you?
Sure. Happy to be here. I hope that you wouldn't eliminate me as part of the solution. I don't become the part of the problem myself. So. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I'm Daniel Rahmani. I'm VP of Architect and Machine Learning in JPMorgan Chase. So I did my PhD in mechanical engineering in Stony Brook University. I worked in computational simulations, mostly molecular dynamics and computational fluid dynamics, also with some analytics works, focusing mostly on statistical physics with application in nanoscale systems. And toward the end of my PhD, I started planning for kind of transitioning to the tech and specifically data science and machine learning. So at the end of my PhD, I started working in a startup company, just developing machine learning models for life insurance purposes, personalization of the website, and all those words. And then after that, I joined American Express, again, continuing on building machine learning models for fraud, customer 360, and customer networks. Those applications also a little bit on the platforms, both on-prem and on AWS, on public cloud. And then after that, I joined JPMC, which I'm working currently for more than 2 years. And same path again, with focus more or less on machine learning models, production, pushing these models to production, big data, data transfer, data pipeline, and also more recently on more to the engineering part of the problems with focus on API products. So with that, yeah, I would be happy to share more of my experience and also my point of view on the issues and problems that we are all facing in the tech industry.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniel, for the introduction. For the audience, as you can see, our speakers are from different industries doing tech. So it's not just that the traditional technology companies are having technical people, whether in leadership, whether as technologists, but it's really any industry today needs a technical component. So with that, I want to address the first question. There is a misconception that only technical people can work in tech just because it says tech industry. Can you address this for us, Sylvia? I'm sure you hear this a lot as well. You might hear this a lot. I hear this a lot about, well, I don't have a CS degree, or I don't have a engineering degree, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm always, stunned that I hear this misconception. Do you hear this quite often?
I do. And it's interesting because some of the people that I work with, many of the people I work with and highly respect and have contributed to a lot of innovation actually did not have computer science degrees. And it varies. What I would say is there's two parts to this, right? If you want to get into tech, and we discussed this earlier, you're an accountant, well, there's accounting roles in a high-tech company. And then there's the whole conversation about, you are maybe an accountant, but you want to go into engineering and product engineering or some kind of technology space with a company like Sheila's and Daniel's. There's many ways to go down that path. So the first thing is for you to research what type of company and what type of technology you're interested in, right? What sort of interests you? And then the second part, I think the accountant to accountant it's an easy path. Now, let's say you are you have a degree that is not computer science, but you want to go into product engineering. What you need to do is look at what is your current education. If you have a math degree and you're very good at math, that right there is a really good starting point. There's many different roles within product engineering. There is the software developer, there is the test engineers or quality assurance. There are program managers, people that facilitate the planning and coordination and release. There is product management. There are DevOps roles where if you actually have worked as a system administrator, where you could go and actually have training on different platforms like vSphere or any operating system and managing systems. So the first step is figure out what do you know today and what experience you have, and then try and find someone that's already in the industry that can help you translate those skills and knowledge and experience into possible roles within a product engineering organization or any technical area that you want to target. So I think it just requires a little bit of homework, creativity, organize yourself, and be very focused. And don't shy away. One of the big values of bringing people with different experiences and disciplines and gender and diversity is that when we're actually tackling a problem, and we get a lot of difficult problems, it's not just the people that have that computer science degree that solve that problem. It's the entire team with different perspectives that look at problems differently. And that's what we value in high tech. It's the creativity that different people with different skills bring in.
Yeah, agreed. And Sylvia, one thing that you pointed out is that companies can't survive just on technical people to keep the roof. There is so many different components, even recruiters or, marketing people, digital marketing people, which has some technology aspect that you need to learn as well. So there's a lot of ways, or AI and robotics and, whether it's software engineering. So there's a lot of ways to engage. Sheila, you mentioned our previous conversation around this misconception as well. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
Yeah, I often think of tech as being not just a one-dimensional sort of monolithic. It's really like building a house, right? Tech products are like building a house. Actually, any product this day and age has a tech component. So you can't get away from it, even if you're, whether you're in the insurance business or you're an accountant or whatever. So in a way, it's kind of like building a house. So you need somebody who's going to look at the aesthetics and the design. You need somebody who's going to look at the structure and make sure it's strong, and then keeps everybody, on time. So it really, I think Sylvia's exactly right. Go and evaluate your own skill set and then say, okay, what of my skills can I transfer? So if you're highly organized, you could be a project or program manager. if you have sort of visual flair, you can work on user design. Testing is the most critical and probably most undervalued task. And if you're detail oriented, that's really critical. And sometimes, quite often engineers get caught up in the elegance of what they've created without thinking through the experience of an uninformed user. So you really need to bring all of these diverse skills together to be successful. So kind of really validating exactly what Sylvia is saying, but then saying that you have to think about your own skill set and learn about the jobs so that you can say, what skills do they need? And do I have transferable skills?
That's really good advice as well. And I think that's something that everyone right now is probably considering, thinking about what can we do? How do we get there the fastest way with the skill sets I have, and what little tweaks I can do to get there? Daniel, any thoughts around?
Yeah, I mean, very good points were mentioned. Just to add, basically, I think I will come back to this point through the discussion so many times, but basically the key is the knowledge. So if you have the knowledge, then you are good to go. And building that knowledge is not a very, at least for entry level, at least getting your foot at the door is not a very difficult task. And it's not very time consuming. At most with 6 months, if you have a good foundation of what you are already doing, let's say you are an accountant and math, statistics, any topic, even if you are doing in music, that's okay. But you need that 6 months to build on top of the skill set that you already have to make you ready to kind of get your foot at the door. Then I will discuss this later on what particular skill sets someone needs to work on in these 6 months past so he can get in. But the key is knowledge.
That's right, and that's true. I think being prepared to know what we need to know is also important. Sheila, you mentioned earlier, how your experience when you introduced yourself, where your daughter didn't feel confident enough to go into the tech ecosystem or learning and coding and all of. And you decided then to debunk that and be the first, so to show her basically as a role model and to arena, I would say. My curiosity is, and this comes a lot because we are talking about how you should transition into technologies. When is the right time, or when is it too late? Is there such a thing as too late to transition into a new career? Because I mean, you are clearly someone who did that, decided one day, you woke up, you're like, guess what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to take some classes and transition. And this is a question, what is there too late such a thing? Or what does that look like? When can I do this?
So I'm truly a believer in it's never too late. So, I mean, perhaps it's too late for me to now start to do ballet, but other than that, things that are within my mental and physical capacity, it's never too late. And I've had what I would say, I've had 4 very different careers. And so as a result, I go back to translate the skills that you have, find people to talk to. One of the things, really important things is, and I'm sure all of you have heard this a billion times, you only get jobs through networking. Network not to get a job, but to learn about what the thing is that you're interested in. And so, for example, when I got into, as I said, after my daughter's kind of bombshell and my sort of desire to get into this, I'd never done anything like that. Yeah, I was always the poster kid for, being the person who was either not white or not male or whatever in tech, but I'd never really sat and thought about this. So I actually got involved and volunteered for an organization, the American Association of University Women, helped them organize girls in STEM events. And so then you start to build up a level of credibility, and you pick up some skills, you learn some what the issues are. It's really a question of research, meet people, but it's never too late, because you can always use. I met somebody who was actually a woman working in a bed and breakfast, and she said, oh, you know what, I used to be a graphic designer, but there are no jobs. And I was like, well, if you want to kind of learn how to do that in technology, there are a billion jobs for a user design kind of person. So it's really, people don't know and understand. It's all about learning, talking to people, learning information, and building the knowledge, the skills, and volunteer to do a couple of things just so you can learn.
Absolutely, Sheila. And Sylvia, you took a different career path. You have been in tech, but you also engaged a lot, and you have been in a lot of different tech companies as well. What is your advice to the current generation or the next generation that wants to come in? Is there a good time? What's the good time?
The time is up to you. One of the things I've learned over time is don't let anybody else define what can and can't be done.
Yeah.
When I first talking about being the only woman in the room, I'm the only Hispanic, I have a Muslim last name. I mean, you name it, I'm like out of the box. One of my managers says you're never in the box. So first off, really, it all depends on what you want and what state of your life you're in. Mm-hmm. I have transitioned into different functions within the organization because I'm a very curious person, and for me, I have to continuously be learning. If I feel like I stop growing, then I need to move on to the next thing. And that has served me well in this industry, because I've gone from, like I said, tech support into QA. Yes, the most undervalued function in the room, in the engineering organization, managing development, managing DevOps. And each time I would get told, well, you've never done that before. Yes, I know, but I can open up a book. I can go and call people that I know that are doing this, and I can teach myself. Today, there's actually zero barrier, because anything you need to learn, you can find it in the internet.
Yep.
So I completely remove any question and any barrier. It's up to you. The world is open. It's not easy. High-tech jobs are demanding. Usually you're working with global teams, so there is a lot of things that you have to be dynamic and flexible. But really, the decision is yours.
I agree. And you just mentioned you started somewhere, and then you just worked up because you didn't want to stay stagnant, and you didn't want to just stop and just stay there within that career path. You really wanted to grow within, and you asked the questions, you wanted to take new opportunities. And that's, I think, something to point out more is, don't think that this is it. Mm-hmm. Try to branch out. In technology, there's so many opportunities, and there's so many different ways, as you mentioned, to get into it and then grow within.
Yes, but one thing I do want to give everybody sort of something to think about. I did those transitions, but I established myself very well in one area, and that was quality assurance. That, basically was what I became known for. And with the one challenge as I went up the ladder was not to be defined by that only. So that I could actually go into the more senior roles, getting up to the VP level. So just that's one caution. But otherwise, the key in high tech, the key to success in high tech is remain flexible and ready for the next opportunity, and always be in learning mode.
Agreed. Daniel, any addition to that question?
Yeah, I'm just basically, fortunately, we are in an area that the demand is to the roof. So if you get the knowledge, I'm pretty sure you can get the job. So never is late. Yeah, never is too late.
Agreed. Which brings me to the next question, which is, and I get this a lot, I'm sure everybody here on the panel, well, I'm not technical, but I really want to be technical. I don't want to go to school and get a 4-year degree. That's, down the line. I need that job maybe today or tomorrow, and I want to be a software engineer or a data scientist. I'll swoop in here for a little bit of a shameless plug. Women of MENA in Technology is creating a 6-month tuition-free coding school this August and summer. So if you want to learn software engineering, you're a woman of MENA and live in North America, please apply. But I would love to hear from the panel here. If someone doesn't have that technical skill sets, but they do want to get into the industry to become a technologist, because that's, of course, where the money is. Most of the money is. A lot of ask is in the technical fields. Daniel, what are their choices?
Yeah, I mean, again, fortunately, they have lots of choices. There are lots of options available, and my focus will be mostly to the data science, but I think same is applicable at least also for the software development, product design, and all the related fields. But at least for data science, this is the path that I took, and it worked well for me. I think it will work for anyone else also, a little bit just touching it to fit their personality. But yeah, absolutely, you don't need a degree, you don't need anything like that. This is what I did, and this is what I also suggest and recommend to other people when they ask me. So the first resource is just online courses, and there are many of them. I use Coursera, and then also there are courses on Udemy and Udacity. All three of them have very good courses, especially on machine learning and data science. Coursera has very good courses by Andrew Ng, and also the other one from the Washington University. And then if they want to dig deeper, at least on some of the topics, they can read books. They can always read books. There are, again, enough good quality books which they can read. Some of them are deeper. If they have more time, of course, that's good. But for the topics that they want to dig deeper, and then so these will give them the fundamentals, basically the mathematics and some applicable fundamentals of machine learning and data science. And of course they need coding. So I think the most famous one is LeetCode. Just solving hundreds or 200 problems in LeetCode will put them far away from any other candidates. So that's very important. And yeah, and then these two elements are the fundamental and the foundation of their career. And then if they want to kind of distance themselves from other candidates or other topics, like, for example, deep learning and also databases, distributed systems, that again they can use same resources to get the knowledge, which with these three additional, they will be I'm pretty sure their resume will be on top of the stack of the resumes of the applicants.
That's great insight, Daniel. I'm sure a lot of our audience wants to hear that, and direction and the knowledge to know what is the best suited path for them. I'm curious, from Sylvia or Sheila, what other programs, and especially here we are talking mostly about our community, which is underrepresented minority and women. And of course, there is I want to say a cry for more women to enter the ecosystem because there's so much demand for open roles, and we want to diversify our workforce. What are particular maybe programs you have heard of or exist, or any suggestion on how women can enter with with not having a tech background but wanting to become a technologist? Anyone wants to take? Sheila?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I know there are a lot of boot camps that, 3-4 month long boot camps that prepare you at different levels, and they go from free to really quite expensive. So you can look at that, and a lot of companies actually are starting to hire people and then train them. And especially if you, for example, taken a few years off or you have a different kind of background, companies are starting what they call a returnship program. So a returnship is when you've been out of, you've taken a career break for 2-3 years, you can come back into the workforce, and there's usually a 3-4 month training period, and part of that, depending on your background, could be some tech aspects. So everybody from Accenture to MasterCard to many Walmart even is doing these returnship programs. So those are, you're getting paid while you do this. So you're kind of, that is your job. Or you can kind of take go and take an actual boot camp for, 3 months or whatever. And so those are all different ways that you can get in. And like I say, the cost can be from $0 to, $20,000. So it requires a little digging.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sheila. Sylvia, any other thoughts?
I think that most of them programs have already been mentioned. There's a lot of women's groups, just like MENA, that are offering boot camps and coding marathons where you can practice, or where they'll select some nonprofit, that they'll go help so that you can build up your resume a little bit. So just encourage people to research, look for groups like that. One of the things that I just wanted to say is, if you're going to make that transition, figure out, what field are you in. So if you are in nursing and you want to make a transition, go look at companies that are developing products for the healthcare industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of companies that are building websites for managing doctor's office appointments, things like that. Where your experience or your perspective is going to be valued, right? So that they're not bringing you in for your excellent coding skills, they're bringing you in for your knowledge of that particular domain. So if you are in education, same thing. There's a lot of companies, and this is where a little bit of that research, after you figure, what your skill set and what your experience is, then tie that to the types of companies that you want to target. If you're in a space and then you want to go into a company that builds, very low level software, that's going to be a big challenge. So, align that skill set and experience with the company you target.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And you said something really nicely, and that's a segue for me for the next question that I was going to ask you, Sylvia, is that, how do I choose the company to work at? And you touched base a little bit on this right now, but there is a lot of, fun words out there saying, culture matters, all the fancy things that are thrown at me. Well, I don't know. Pandemic obviously eliminated the ping pong table and the pizzas at the office, the lunches and the dinners and so forth. But really, how can someone who's coming into this ecosystem and maybe have less knowledge, how do I identify the right company to work at? What do I look for? And you touched a little bit on that.
So the first part is, right, the alignment in terms of your experience. The other type, there's so many factors that go into this. The other thing that you need to decide is what stage in your life you're in, so that you can actually look at that company and what that culture, right? The culture is going to make a difference. Say, for example, if I'm a mother bringing up 3 kids, you know, and I'm going to go to a company that expects me to work consistently late hours, it's going to be a challenge, right? You need to talk to the people that are working there and find out what is valued, what is that culture like. So that's one aspect of it, right? If you're someone that has no other responsibility, you just want to focus on your career. Hey, startups are a great place to go because there your career can take off, and they let you do anything because there's not enough people to do it. So they'll take a risk and let you go and handle something that normally would be handled by a more senior person. So that's one aspect of it. The other part is how interested are you in that particular space? And what is going to be the opportunity for learning? We talked about how these jobs are well paid, but to be honest, I have never made my decision. Starting with my very first job, I had two offers, and I took the offer that paid the least. And my husband said, "Why did you do that?" And what I told him, very naive myself, was, 1, I like the people. 2, I think I'm going to learn a lot. And I get to work with the architect. And so, look at those other non-financial aspects of the job, because at the end of the day, you're going to spend a lot of hours. I'm going to say this, and I mentioned already, these jobs are demanding. You're going to spend a lot of time on this high-tech job, more time than you would sometimes spend with your family. So you have to enjoy what you're doing and who you're doing it with.
Agreed. I always say, wherever you want to get high is you're able and comfortable to share a pillow, because you will be working. I mean,
yes.
Pre-pandemic, I don't know how it is post-pandemic, but you stay at the office until midnight sometimes. So you need to really like the people if you want to hang out with them and work with them. Sheila, any more comments in regards to, how to choose? And especially, I think one thing is, we have talked a little bit gender neutrally, but I do want to also address that, the community we serve is a minority focused women. So also touching base on, as women, how should we look at this as well? And because it is a little bit different than the other gender part, where they might be okay with certain things and we may not be.
That's right. And I could tell you some horror stories of things that I've sort of
I don't know if you have the time, but yeah.
And it's probably not for public consumption, but the reality is, I think when you go and look for a company, a job, even many companies nowadays kind of the old style, you got to be in the office every daylight hour. I mean, clearly now after the pandemic that's gone, but you're still working a lot. You have to really look for the culture and the kind of people who accept you and all of you as a person. And it's some of these places, it becomes pretty obvious if you go in and it's a bit of a bro culture, where everyone's kind of, it's all about kind of having beer after work and you've got your kids to go look after. Well, that's not going to work for you. So you really have to look out for what is the culture, have those conversations, be brave to ask the right questions. And quite often, one of the things that I've found is it's often about the direct people that 3 or 4 people that you work with and the person that you work for, as to the tone that they set. Because they could be very comfortable if you go home at 4 o'clock every day to make dinner for your kids, but then you log in at 9 p.m. and do another hour or 2 of work. That's great. But then there are people, and I've worked for them as well, where they're like, why isn't your team in the office every day? And I was like, well, they have a 2-hour commute. And so, you really kind of got to dig into that. And especially, and it's not just about your kids and so on. It's also about how well, as a woman in tech, you feel that, you know, you're not getting the, let's call it mansplaining, and you're not on the other end of some of those behaviors from the beginning. You really have to kind of be aware of, when you put up an idea, are people listening? Don't feel confident. And this is something that I tell every young woman that I have ever come across. Every single one of us has had imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is, if you haven't heard the term before, is like, oh my God, how did they let me into this club? You know, I don't belong. I better be quiet. And so every one of us questions that. So it's learning that nobody is more qualified than you are, having the confidence. It's a little bit of the fake it till you make it, but really you're not faking it because you have the skills. It's just that as women, and quite often women who are not from this country, you're taught to be more perhaps modest, or don't swagger. And so these are all behaviors that we all learned growing up that we need to get beyond in order to be successful. It doesn't mean that you have to kind of go out and, you know, beat up every male that you see. It's a question of just being confident in your ability and being comfortable articulating your point of view in a particular situation. Not being overwhelmed.
Sylvia, do you want to say something else too? I know you just moved about this, and I'm so moved that, you know, Sheila has been mentioning this stuff as well, which is sometimes on all our mind. But I wanted to hear you had something you wanted to comment on top of that.
Yes, I did. Actually, you know, like I said, I've been in this industry for very long. When I first started, I was the only woman in the room. Now, in a more senior role, I'm the only woman in the room very often.
Yep.
You know, yes, you're going to run into people that, you know, try to minimize your contribution, that want to take credit for what you do. One of the things I've learned over time is develop very strong relationships with the people that you know are reasonable, the men that are reasonable in the group. You know, go that extra effort to build that relationship. They're the ones that are going to be your allies and support you. You know, I quite often, you know, this morning before I put myself in a conference call, 2 or 3 people who I work very closely with and collaborated, you know, real good partnerships, right away said, no, this will impact Sylvia's team. Sylvia's going to say this, and I'm like, I'm trying to hit the unmute. So I don't want it to sound like it's all this bad, even if you're the only one in the room. At some point, when you prove yourself and you actually develop those strong relationships with your peers, whether it be men or women, it just starts to get better. So I don't want to scare anybody away. It's all about you just having the confidence in yourself and always assessing what is it that I bring to the table that is unique, company needs and this group needs, and make sure that you're making that visible. You know, that'll help a lot with this whole thing about being the only woman in the room.
And I'm just going to sort of jump on that to add one more point, Sylvia. I think you're 100% right. And one of the things that women will often do, and I've heard this from every walk of life, is women will often say, I'll work really hard and I will get to, you know, I'll do well. It's the relationships that Sylvia mentioned are actually just as, if not more critical than your pure competence. So lift up your head from your computer, your desk, go grab a cup of coffee with somebody, make that relationship happen. And that's just as important, because now you're not just this nerdy girl in the background, you are, you know, an equal member.
Absolutely. You know, this transitions to my last question, Daniel, and you know, we had the discussion of, okay, how do I get the skill sets? Okay, where do I decide to work? Now it's like, how do I get in? How do I, you know, apply or get hired? Where do I get ready to get hired? And what are some of the things I should know before I send that first resume so that I can get the yeses or the interviews to come in? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, but before getting to that, let me express a little bit different opinion on the places that we need to choose to work. So again, as Sylvia mentioned, it really depends on what stage of life you are, and put it in a way, how desperate you are. So I think as someone who doesn't have a CS degree and you want to make a transition to tech industry without any experience and with just some boot camps and online courses and kind of self-study, I think, at least for myself, if I was in that situation, I would be more or less desperate. So in that situation, I think people shouldn't be that much picky, because, and I have a reason for that, because when you get in, even for the worst company in the world, and you take it for 6 months or a year, you will see that doors will be open for you. Doors will going to open for you that you wouldn't even imagine them in your dreams. So as the first job for someone without experience and those things, don't be that picky. Many times I've talked to many people that they only get one offer, which is not really good. And they say, okay, should I take it or should wait? And the question comes up, okay, how long did you wait for this one? And they say, okay, 3 months. Okay, so then can you risk another 3 months to get a better offer? And how do you know that the next one will going to be better than this? So on the first job, take whatever you get, especially if you are desperate. And then you will see that in a 6 months up to 1 year, you don't need even to apply. Recruiters will come to you. So yeah, on one point on the how to pick the company and what they should expect, and then on back to your question about how to get kind of hired and what should we do before sending out that resume. First of all, there are too many companies, so sending a couple of resumes out there wouldn't hurt you. So don't worry about it. There are too many positions, and don't. Okay, if one company is your dream company and you really want to invest in it, then don't send that out first. Let's learn some stuff, and then try for that one. But as general, for any field, and specifically for tech field, I usually go with the brute force approach for applying for jobs, which means all of the above. So all of the above means, of course, networking. And networking can be good networking, which I call it, you actually build a relationship with someone who can be a potential hiring manager or knows a hiring manager, which can help your resume to get on the desk. That's one way of doing it. And the other one is asking connection of your connections, of course, friends of friends, friends of families. And then last resort is just cold messages on LinkedIn or on emails. I have done all of them. Some of them works better. Some of them has lower probability, but you never know which one will work for you. So again, you need to do, that's the brute force way of doing it. So you have to do all of it. And also same thing for applying, just cold apply. You hear lots of people say that, applying doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work for almost hundreds of them that you apply, but it will work for only one of them. And that's what you only need. You only need one of them to work. You don't need all of the 100 applications you put there work for you, or you don't need all of the 100 cold messages you send on LinkedIn work for you. Yeah. But you only need one of them. So go for all of them. And then before pandemic, we also had these meetups meetings, which I don't think happening anymore, but if things go back to normal, there are also good places to
There is virtual though, Daniel. There is now virtual. It's very similar.
But I'm not sure, because there was this company called Meetup, and they had this. I'm not sure if they are doing it virtually anymore or not, or even the company is around or not. But anyway, yeah. So attend these meetings. They are a very good source of networking. Yeah. And then also another thing is having a good written, established LinkedIn profile. That's helped you a lot, because lots of recruiters will find you on LinkedIn, especially after that 6 months that you took that job that you didn't like, but you took it. And then after that, you'll see that recruiters will find you on LinkedIn because only and only you had 6 months job experience.
Agreed. Anyone else wants to add on how to get into the companies? I mean, Daniel, you just went through all of it, but I would love to hear from other perspectives as well. Sylvia or Sheila?
Yeah, one other way is to join different associations like AMA or engineer, IEEE, those sort of things, where you get opportunities to meet and connect with people that are in roles of hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Definitely.
And then if you do attend any of the local university programs, right, there is the university recruiting that happens also. You can always tap into that too.
Agreed. I mean, there's so many different, I totally agree about joining different programs, joining different organizations where they can help you connect with a network you either want to connect with or you want to be a part of. It's really important to expand, especially now with the pandemic in place, or when we go back. I personally have been part of different organizations as a member. Network is so crucial in career development, in even knowledge and understanding. I learned so much from others within my peers. So I totally agree. Last word before we close out and take the Q&As. We have some questions as well from the audience that we want to get.
Yeah, I would just basically reiterate what everyone has said and say that just use every opportunity to build that network, because as Daniel said, nowadays nobody gets a job through LinkedIn. So figure out, different kinds of people. And one of the things that, especially when you're going for something completely different, your existing network may not be terribly helpful. Often go and step out of your comfort zone and meet completely different people. And actually, one of the things I'll say is that in the pandemic, everybody is craving somebody to talk to. So if you say, hey, I saw your thing, on LinkedIn or whatever it was, I'd love to learn, get some advice. Boy, everyone likes to give advice. So I think between the pandemic and appealing to everyone's ego for advice, you can get in a lot of doors. So.
Yeah, agreed. Sylvia, anything else before we dive into the questions?
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground already.
Awesome. First and foremost, everyone, I mean, Sylvia, Sheila, Daniel, for giving so many invaluable, it's so incredible to hear these things. Sometimes we think we know everything, but there's always advice that we can tap into, and having you here speaking in front of our audience and our community has been incredible. So thank you so much for giving your time. We know how much time you invest into your own work